How to build an aesthetic frame when you're skinny. Now, the most important muscle for aesthetics and to actually go ahead and broaden your frame, it is by actually training your delts. Now, take this guy for example. It is just some guy which I found on Google. I'm assuming he's never actually trained in his life. And if you look at him, he kind of looks like a skinny Eminem. But anyway, if this guy were to actually go train his shoulders, if this guy were to actually go to the gym and hammer his delts, he would go ahead and have a more V-taper physique. And the V-taper physique is the most attractive and aesthetic physique which you can go ahead and have as a man. Now, if this guy were to train his shoulders and prioritize his shoulders would inevitably go ahead and get bigger. Now, instead of his shoulders being like this right now, if he were to train his shoulders, they can actually go ahead and look something more like this, right? And when looking at the V-taper, you go ahead and judge your shoulder to waist ratio. And depending on how big your shoulder to waist ratio is, it is actually going to go ahead and make you look more aesthetic if not. And some people are actually born with more narrow clavicles, okay? And to those people, they should still go ahead and actually train their delts, because by training your delts and improving some parts of your delts, in particular your side delt, you will go ahead and actually look more wider, and it will give the illusion that you have actually more broader shoulders. So really, by training your delts, it's actually going to go ahead and make you look wider and more aesthetic. Now, when training your delts, you need to hit all heads of the delt, okay? Doesn't matter if it's just the front delt, the side delt, or the rear delt. They're all important for looking aesthetic, okay? And by training your front delt, you need to go ahead and pick an exercise by doing a shoulder press variation or an overhead press variation. And it really does not matter if you choose a barbell, a dumbbell, if you're doing the standing up, if you're doing the sitting down. It really goes ahead and doesn't matter. What matters is that you actually pick an exercise which you enjoy, which you can actually safely progressively overload, and actually stick with the exercise. Now, when it comes to training your side delt, I would say it's actually by far the most important head of the delt, because training your side delt, it is actually going to go ahead and broaden your frame, since the side delt is literally on the side of your shoulder. And if you go ahead and make this muscle bigger, it will appear as if you have a more broader frame, especially when you have clothes on, okay? When you're wearing a t-shirt, you're going to go ahead and look actually broader. Now, the best way to go ahead and train your side delts, it is by doing lateral raises, okay? This exercise might look a little bit goofy to you, but this is honestly one of the few exercises which actually hits the side delt, because most pressing variations, they go ahead and hit the front delt pretty well. If you do a bunch of back exercises such as rowing, you're going to go ahead and hit your rear delt. But for side delts, it's very, very hardly hit unless you're doing a different type of shoulder press variation. Then maybe you'll go ahead and get a little bit of side delt activation. But if you want to have good side delts, if you want to go ahead and actually look broader, you need to go ahead and isolate them by doing lateral raises. And it doesn't matter if you're doing this with a machine, a dumbbell, a cable. As I said, the most important thing is that you actually feel the exercise, you enjoy doing it, and you can progressively overload. Then just stick with it and you will go ahead and see progress, okay? Now, as for the rear delt, the best way to go ahead and hit your rear delt is by doing a rear delt fly. And this doesn't matter if you're doing this with a reverse pec deck machine, if you're doing it with dumbbells. And don't actually be that guy who goes ahead and skips rear delts, which I'm talking about myself, because I used to actually go ahead and skip rear delts, and I've even said this in an older video that I don't train rear delts because they actually go ahead and get hit with most back exercises. As for the rear delts, I don't do any sort of exercises for the rear delts. But if you really want to isolate the rear delts, you can be doing rear delt flies. Or you can simply just focus on the compound exercises for the back, and those will hit your rear delt pretty good. Training your rear delt, there is also an advantage to this, because if you have rounded shoulders, which I used to have, probably due to me not training my rear delts, and also just by sitting on the computer, having your phone and you're looking down and you're scrolling, right? By training your rear delts, it is literally going to go ahead and strengthen this muscle here. And you're gonna go ahead and have your shoulders more back. You're gonna go ahead and have your shoulders more pulled back. And honestly, I've been training my rear delts a few times per week. And honestly, I've seen my own posture just improve simply by just training my rear delts more, by training them 1 to 2 times per week, okay? Nothing too crazy. And I went ahead and improved my aesthetics and I improved my posture as well. So yeah, train your side delts, train your front delts, and train your rear delts if you want to go ahead and look aesthetic. Now, the second muscle group which you need to go ahead and prioritize, it is actually your back, because the same way how your delts go ahead and structure your whole frame, the same way it goes for your back. Now, in particular, your lats, they are literally wings, okay? Literally, take a look at this guy, for example. This is Hussein, right? And just look at his back, okay? If this guy were to have actually a narrower back, if this guy didn't train his lats so much, he would actually go ahead and look more narrow. But since he actually goes ahead and trains his back pretty well, he actually has this type of amazing physique, right? Where his shoulder to waist ratio is actually very, very good, okay? Because this guy has good lats. And the best way to go ahead and train your lats, it is by doing pull-ups, by doing lat pull-downs and other pull-down variations, which you go ahead and choose and stick to. Now, for the upper back in particular, especially because if you are a skinny guy watching this video, by training your upper back, it is going to go ahead and make you look just thicker and more broader and more masculine, especially if you go ahead and train your traps, okay? Because it is the very few muscles, for example, your traps, which is visible at all times, okay? It does not matter pretty much what you're wearing. If you're wearing just a normal t-shirt, people go ahead and judge you from your face down to your neck, and then your traps, shoulders, all of that. So really, training your upper back is a literal cheat code, okay? Now, the best exercises for training your upper back, it is going to be by doing rowing, okay? This can be doing barbell rows, dumbbell rows, cable rows. As I said, the most important thing is that you choose an exercise which you enjoy and stick to it, okay? Personally, I prefer barbell rows. I feel a very good contraction and I feel a really good burn with this exercise, and I feel really, really sore the next day when doing it. So give it a try, okay? Because as I say, not every single exercise fits everybody, okay? For example, I have a friend who goes ahead and trains with me, okay? And when I do barbell rows, he actually says he feels a lot of lower back pain, okay? Even though when he does the exercise, I look at him and he's doing the exercise correctly. But if the exercise just makes him ultra uncomfortable, then there is no need to go ahead and push yourself to go ahead and perform it. And he just went ahead and did a different variation, which he does now, cable rows, okay? And he feels a really good contraction with the exercise. And as long as he goes ahead and makes progress and he enjoys the exercise, then why should you go ahead and change exercises, right? Okay, so we've talked about the delts and the back for going ahead and broadening your frame and looking aesthetic, which actually goes ahead and frames your whole physique and builds your whole structure. But if you are a skinny guy, you most likely have underdeveloped arms. And training your arms is actually a literal cheat code as well, because let's say that you're just wearing a normal t-shirt, like Sylvester Stallone here, okay? Just look at his arms, okay? When you're wearing a t-shirt, your arms are always exposed. If you want to go ahead and have more developed arms, you need to focus on training your biceps, your triceps, and your forearms. In particular, your forearms as well, because forearms are actually one of the hardest muscles to go ahead and grow, okay? Yes, you can go ahead and hit your forearms when you're doing your back exercises, like you're doing your pull-ups, you're doing your barbell rows, all that type of stuff, but forearms for a lot of people are very, very stubborn, okay? And you need to go ahead and hit them multiple times per week and actually do isolation exercises. My personal favorite forearm exercises, which I put here, are hammer curls and reverse curls. I feel a very good contraction with these, and I can easily go ahead and do them on my pull days, okay? Now, as for the triceps, which actually take 2/3 of the arm, you need to go ahead and prioritize mainly the 2 heads of the tricep. There's actually 3 heads, but the 3rd head actually gets hit with both of these exercises and most of your pressing movements, and it's a very small head of the tricep. You need to focus on the long head and the medial head. And when you're training your long head, which is actually the biggest head of the tricep, you go ahead and hit them with doing overhead extensions, any type of overhead movement, okay? Whether that be with a cable, skull crushers, doing with a dumbbell, all that type of stuff, right? And I personally go ahead and do them with a dumbbell. I feel the best sort of contraction with them, but you can also do it with a barbell. You can do it with cables, as I say. And personally, my favorite exercise for the triceps is tricep pushdowns, okay? Because it is a very easy exercise to go ahead and feel, okay? You feel a good burn on your triceps. It's easy to go ahead and do drop sets with them, all that type of stuff. So really pick an exercise which you go ahead and enjoy and just stick to it, okay? That's the most important thing. Now, as for biceps, if you want to go ahead and have impressive arms, don't be the guy who just says, oh, what, just like if you want to have big arms, just go ahead and prioritize the compound lifts, okay? But chances are, if you are a skinny guy watching this video, you don't have such great arms, okay? And especially if you are a taller guy, you have longer limbs, then it's going to be harder to go ahead and put muscle mass on your frame as easily as those guys who are shorter. So really, you need to go ahead and hammer your arms as well. And the best exercises for biceps, just keep it simple. Just do curls, whether that be barbell, dumbbell, cable curls, all that type of exercises. You don't need any sort of fancy upside down curling variation with your ultra deep stretch. No, just go ahead and stick to the basics when it comes to pretty much all types of exercises and muscle groups. Okay, now a bonus muscle which very little people train, it is actually your neck. And I honestly don't understand why people don't train their neck as much, because your neck is literally always visible. Pretty much despite whatever kind of clothes you're wearing, it doesn't matter if you're wearing a jacket, a sweater, a t-shirt, your neck is always visible. And I've even made a full detailed guide to training your neck and how neck training became popular in a video which I made recently. Go ahead and check it out in the description. And literally, your neck is always visible, and by training your neck and having a thicker neck, it symbolizes that you have higher testosterone. The people who go ahead and have thicker necks, even though they don't train, they tend to have higher androgen receptors and all that type of stuff, which basically means that they're more of a man than you because they have more testosterone than you. And by training your neck is going to go ahead and make you look more masculine, more intimidating, and really, it is just simple to go ahead and train. So pretty much all you need is just to do neck curls, okay? And if you want to go ahead and go in detail with neck training, check out my video which I made recently. And a little pro with training your neck is actually that it's easy to grow. Unlike, for example, the forearms or other muscle groups which you actually kind of struggle to go ahead and grow. Just by training your neck like 1 to 2 times per week, within a few months, you will go ahead and make your neck substantially bigger than it used to be, because your neck is actually very easy to grow. I'm assuming because we don't actually go ahead and use our necks as much as with other muscle groups. Okay, now the most important thing when it comes to actually broadening your frame, you can go ahead and train your delts, you can go ahead and train your back, your arms, your neck, other muscle groups as much as you want. But if you are a skinny guy and you don't have dialed in nutrition, then it is pretty much almost always a waste. Now, you don't deserve to go ahead and be lean, especially if you are a skinny guy just starting out in the gym. You might already be lean, having a six-pack, but really, your body needs more calories and it needs more fuel to go ahead and grow, especially if you're new to the gym and you want to go ahead and pack on muscle mass, okay? And really, you just need to go ahead and lean bulk. And lean bulking really just takes 200, 500 calories above your maintenance, which is pretty much nothing, okay? 200 to 500 calories, just going ahead and being in a surplus really is just like, for example, eating at maintenance, but you go ahead and have 1 to 2 teaspoons of peanut butter. You have 1 teaspoon of olive oil, and you already are in a surplus, okay? That's really all it takes to go ahead and build muscle, okay? And really, if you want to go ahead and get enough protein, you need to be eating anywhere from 1.8 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So in pounds, this will be 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So for example, I'm currently weighing in around 70 kg. So I need to get in at least 126 grams of protein to 140 grams of protein per day, okay? If I get 126 grams of protein, I'm happy, okay? That's really all it takes, okay? And don't make the mistake of thinking, you know what, I'm getting enough protein, I'm eating healthy, I'm actually eating a lot of food, I must be going ahead and being in a surplus. Now, the best way to actually know if you're getting enough protein, you're eating enough calories, is by simply downloading a calorie tracking app, okay? Just pick any sort of free calorie tracking app online for free. Just go ahead and look it up and just download it and just track every single thing which you eat. And you will be actually surprised, because if you are still skinny watching this video, you just simply don't eat enough, okay? You're not getting enough food, okay? So that is the most important thing when it comes to broadening your frame, is by actually just eating more and getting bigger, right? So it's really impossible to go ahead and actually get bigger if you're not getting enough food in. You literally cannot get bigger if you're not eating more. Now, that's it with the video. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, you might go ahead and enjoy my new Skool community called the Aesthetic Academy, which is a place for young men who want to go ahead and get aesthetic, stay consistent in the gym. And if that sounds something which you might be interested in, check out the link in the description, the top link in the description, my Skool community. And thank you for watching this video.